that we use very frequently in our worship is Amen. Now, Amen in Hebrew later became Amin in Syriac and Arabic. So this word is used by Jews, by Christians, and by Muslims. The word Amen means true, or I agree to it. Usually we use this word at the end of prayers. After reciting a prayer, we say Amen. It's almost like writing a letter and putting a signature underneath. The signature means that when I put a signature under my letter, that means I take the authorship of this letter. This is my letter. I take responsibility for this letter, for the content of this letter. That's what it means. So, saying Amen at the end of a prayer has similar meaning. It means I take the responsibility for the content of this prayer. This is truly my prayer. But saying Amen at the end of every prayer is not obligatory, is optional. If you make a short prayer, God can hear it, and we don't need to say Amen at the end of every prayer. But there is another place where we must say Amen. For example, when we stand for God as a community, as a society, let's say we are in a church and we are 100 people. Now, for all these 100 people to pray together is not always possible. It's not always good, because it can create a lot of confusion. All these 100 people may not be able to recite this prayer in the right way. So what we do is, one person recite the prayer representing all the 100 people. And at the end of the prayer, all these 100 people together say Amen. Means we agree that this is our prayer. They put their signature. We take this prayer, this is our prayer. It was only for convenience that one person prayed it, but this is our prayer, we prayed it together. That's what it means. Let's try to understand this in a better way. Let's imagine this scenario. Let's imagine that we are living in the past, in the time of the kings. Now a king is sitting on his throne, and a group of some 25 people come to see the king. Now all these 25 people cannot go to the presence of the king and talk to him. So what happens? Those 25 people stand at a distance, and the king invites one of them to come forward and speak for them. And one of them comes forward and stands in front of the king and talks to the king, representing the 25 people. Now the king listens to him, understands what these 25 people want, and now the king responds. Now this one man listens to the king carefully, and then he goes back and tells those 25 people what the king said. So this one people, the one person who stood forward, he is like a mediator. He has a representative role. He represents the 25 people when he stands before king. And when he turns around, he goes to the people, he represents the king, and he talks to the people. Now the word purohit, purohitan, it's a Sanskrit word. It means one who stands forward. Purohitan, one who stands forward. In English, we have priest. The word priest is also, we usually think that priest, the word priest has come from presbyter. Presbyter is a Greek word, and presbyteros. From that came the Latin presbyter and priest in English. And presbyter is the elder or the leader of a group. Now, it's almost the same meaning, a purohit and a priest. So the word priest came from presbyter. So they all have kind of similar meaning. A presbyter or a priest represents a group of people. Now, instead of all the people together praying a prayer, this one person prays, and then the people say Amen. They say the prayer theirs by Amen. So Amen is like the signature word. Now let's try to understand this concept a little better. Let's see how this concept has been used, how this concept has been popular in the Judeo-Christian tradition. In Genesis 1, the first chapter of the Bible, we see how God created the whole world. On the sixth day, God created mankind, human race. God created human race in the image of God. It says the image of God. What does that mean? One interpretation is like this. In ancient times, when there were empires, let's think of the Roman Empire. When Caesar was ruling the empire, Caesar cannot be present throughout his empire. So one of the things that he did is he created his images. He created his sculptures and placed it at different parts of the empire. So when people look at the image of Caesar, they can see the form of Caesar, and they worship, they respected the image just as they respected Caesar. So in the same way, God created man, or the human race, as the image of God. God is invisible, so the living beings on the earth cannot see God. So God created man representing God. So when these living beings see man, human beings, they see God. Also, human beings represent God to the human beings. Means they do whatever God is supposed to do. Being God, being the creator, God takes care of the whole world. God protects the whole world. Now, being the image of God, human beings have to take care of the whole world. Human beings have to protect the animals. That's what human beings are supposed to do. So human beings have a mediatorial role. We are mediators. We stand in between God and the whole world. We stand in between. We are a part of the world, but we are standing forward. We are the priest. Man is the priest, or human beings together is a priest representing the entire world. Now, we also see here and there in the Bible that the Jewish nation, the nation of Israel, was called as a race of priests, as a priestly race, which means that they assumed a representative role. They stood before God representing the whole human race. Also, they represented God to the human race. They stood as a mediator. That is actually not a privilege, but it's a great responsibility. So the Jewish people told themselves that we are a special people with a special responsibility. We are standing before God representing the entire humanity. And also we are standing before the humanity representing God. This is a position of responsibility. We have to be responsible. So this is the role of a priest. This is how we humankind see ourselves. We are the priest, stand before the entire creation. This is a position of responsibility.